It is so great to be here, to be back in front of so many of the friends that I started out my professional career with here in Columbia, and being a member of this club and having the honor to lead it. Bill, I think it's I think it's an absolute fantastic theme this year. It means a lot to individual presidents when you can truly believe in your theme that the international president puts forward. In my year, some of you were around here back then, and the theme for us was act with integrity, serve with love, and work for peace. This was me way back 20 years ago, okay? And while some of you are laughing, let's laugh at some of the others. Okay? Mr. Hudson, Buck, yeah, there they are. Steve, Bobby, Paula, you look great. You remember my district governor was Bob Honorado. Some of you would remember Bob and his wife Patty, and my president was Herbert Brown. But I will say, what I learned that year, the relationships that were developed that year and beyond throughout the club, have stayed with me, and I truly have tried to live by the motto of my president year, Bob, as I've moved forward in my professional career, and now as I move forward in the nonprofit sector. So I'm here to talk to you today about Columbia United FC. We're a 501c3 organization. Our motto is one community, one club, one passion. We're all youth, we're all level, and we're all soccer. We were formed through the merger of the old next. Let me see a show of hands. How many people here have a son, daughter, grandchild, grandson, granddaughter, relative who played out at Polo Road at the Nexa Fields over the years? Very good. All right, well, I can tell you an awful lot has changed since way back when, okay? We merged in 2006 with the Columbia Soccer Club. People said that could never happen. And the reality is we both had the same mission, and it was the right thing to do. Our mission and our goal is we provide quality youth soccer opportunities to every child in this community who desire to play youth soccer at a level commensurate with their individual abilities and desires, so as to promote better friendship, common theme with Rotary, and cultural understanding. And we do that for every child, regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic background, and so forth. Why was it created? First, we created it so we could serve every child in this community, every family who deserves the best we have to offer. Secondly, we created it to effectively move into all of the neighborhoods in this community, because when I started as a volunteer on the board of directors of the old Nexa, wow, back in maybe 2001, there really was, do y'all remember Alfred Mueller's, who came? Some of you remember Alfred, that came and gave the presentation. My dear friend, I was just with him last month, and Alfred is now 84 years old. He's still going strong, still doing the same thing. But that first year Alfred came over with an international youth exchange I'll talk about in a moment. When we went out to Polo Road, he said, Ron, there aren't many children of color in this. And I said, Alfred, thank you so much. It's what we're working towards. We don't want soccer in the United States to be considered, you know, an affluent family sport. It teaches great lessons. We want this club to be for everyone, and that's what we have set out to do, and that's what we have done. Thirdly, we want to identify all those good little players, but there are certain ones that we all see throughout the development process where they just get it. They're playing rec soccer over at Polo or at one of the other venues, and the recreational dad, you know, the mom-dad coach is not enough for them. They really are good, and they want to start developing. So we move them into what's called the Junior Academy. And then fourth, over time, we want to provide the best, most competitive soccer environment for the high school age students in the state, in the region, and beyond. So today in year 9, we have almost tripled in size to over 5,500 youth soccer players registered on our club between the ages of 3 and 23. They come from approximately 250 schools around the state. They come from 17 counties, and from 2 states. We have plenty that come in from Georgia. So as a result of that growth and our spread across the state, in 2010 we changed our name to, our trade name to South Carolina United FC, and we have both of those names and logos federally trademarked. The programming, I want to talk to you about what we do and how we do it. So we've got the recreational program, basically what we all grew up with originally out at Polo Road. With the YMCA, you see our signs usually in the fall and the spring for registration. We just finished it this week. This is for the younger ones to just get a start. They play 3v3. They used to play, to show you how it's developed, they used to play in this sport at this age, 11, just like the adults. The problem with that is those poor little children can't run 100 yards like like the older kids can. So it was actually hockey, the hockey industry that developed that model. They started having the early morning hockey tryouts or scrimmages and practices up in Canada. Instead of having the little mites going the whole length of the ice rink, they started sending them back and forth. And the soccer community quickly caught on to that. And so now the model for soccer development in the United States for youth is to have smaller field space to play on. It gives individual kids much more touches on the ball, and it's a better development model. On a Saturday morning for our recreation, it's really unbelievable. We have over 3,100 kids playing each fall and spring season at 250 teams at 7 different venues around the greater Columbia area. We stretch from Ballantyne out in the northwest to Lexington Family YMCA, to Jeep Rogers in the north, to Polo here, to Owensfield downtown, to Northwest YMCA on Kennerly Road. And then we've got also, we have what's called our Strikers program. And this is a fantastic program. It's a special needs soccer program that we developed. It runs on Sunday afternoons. It is for disabled youth. And our motto is striking down barriers and striking up friendship. This is a great program that is headed up by Mr. Ken Corning. Ken is a geneticist at Greenwood Genetics. He seeks out and we secure mostly seniors in the club that need volunteer service and have very good hearts and want to get involved. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. And I talked to you about the Junior Academy. This is for boys and girls in the ages here that I mentioned. It's for U8 all the way up through U12. And again, at this level now, they're not just playing on a Saturday with a volunteer coach. They actually have a trained coach, and they train twice a week. And then they represent the club, wear the club's kit, and they start being developed playing against the same level teams from other clubs around the greater mid-state area of South Carolina. We don't usually have those young families traveling too far, but they will go and start having a real sense of club and development and a higher level of soccer. Then we've got the select soccer, and now we're starting to move into the really competitive area of youth soccer. So in this level, we start at U12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, and boys teams and girls teams, gender specific. But here's what makes our club so much different than any other club in the state. And that is that in our select teams, and you call this, some call this travel soccer, okay? We are so large and are so deep, and we develop so many players that in any one single age group, for instance, in the boys group right now, I have a South Carolina United elite team, which is the first team. I have a Palmetto 1 team. I have a Palmetto 2 team. I have a Crescent 1 and a Crescent 2 team. What that does is, because our club is as large as it is, it allows the players of the same development level where they find themselves at that point in their development, whether they're a 14-year-old or a 17-year-old, and they're able to be placed on a team around, that consists of players of a very similar ability. What happens in smaller clubs is that they may have 2 very good players in a particular age group, and they may have enough to field another team, but those 2 players who are their best players players trying to play a whole season on a team with other players who can't execute, it gets very, very frustrating for them. So quite honestly, that has been one of the biggest keys to our success, is being able to field these highly competitive teams. And what we love about the model is, I've been involved with this now for over 20 years, and I saw my own children come up through the programs. And children develop at all different levels and all different paces. And I can tell you story after story where a parent is upset at you 13 because their child is on the Crescent 1 team, okay? Well, they're all Pelés according to the parents, and we all know that. We've seen that in most all sports. But we, our leadership feels that we place the players appropriately. I have seen time and time again where a player at 13 starts out on that Crescent team and he's playing every game, or she's playing every game and getting better and better and better. And 3 years later, they're on the elite team. And I've got story after story where that's happened. If they had been on that elite team at 13, they wouldn't have been playing. They'd have been sitting on the bench, and they would not have had a chance to develop. So we really believe in our model and what we're doing and how we're developing players. The select leagues that we play in they vary depending on the competitiveness of the team. In the state of South Carolina, we have 2 statewide leagues: the President's Medal League, which is the 2nd-tier team, and the Challenge League, which is the top team. The finalists, if you play in the Challenge League around the state and you make it to your state finals and the state championship each fall, you then, like the European model, you get promoted the next year. And you go on and play in what's called the Region 3 Premier League. So that league now, your team that is advanced into the Region 3 Premier League, that whole league is consisting of state champions and finalists. So it's a very, very good competitive model for the development of players. And then there's a super regional league, and then there's also a U.S. national league. And I'm proud to say that our U15 boys last year actually played in the National League. All boys, from here in the greater Columbia area and across the state to play for us. And they were in the East Division of that with 8 teams, and there was a West Division. You might think, oh my gosh, do they really have to go play somebody from LA? Well, the way that works is the league sets up just 4 regional tournaments around the country, and you basically pick 2 and go and play your games on those 2 weekends. It's actually very, very, very convenient. And I'm proud to say that our boys actually won their division, and that included MLS teams here in the U.S. and the professional leagues. So that's just a wonderful tribute to the kids we're developing. In terms of the current fee structure, I can see it up there. Yeah, the current fee structure remains relatively level from year to year. For the recreation kids, you can see it's anywhere from $75 to $95 for the season. For the travel kids, we have kept it very cost-effective, $480 to $580, and the same for the select. Because you have paid coaches in this instance, they are traveling, and in the more elite levels, they're actually now training 3 times a week. But we have been able to always make it very cost-effective. And what we keep hearing is, wow, Ron, that's a deal compared to things we're dealing with out there with our other children with dance and other activities. But the one thing we're really, really proud of, and that is we've never turned anyone away, ever, ever, ever. And we won't. I have a phenomenal board of directors. Many of you know my board of directors. J.T. McLaughlin, the CEO of the Columbia Urban League, is on my board. Jay Swearingen from Bauchnite Peterson Stormer is on my board of directors. Carol McGee is on my board of directors. Christy Pollock, Steve Burney, Sammy Mokiba, just very, very, very solid community-oriented people, and we do this for the benefit of the community and the benefit of the kids. And it's always the donations and the scholarship monies that we're able to raise that help us. Really, the goal is always to help maintain normalcy in the lifestyles of these children when economic hard times hit for any one family. The tournaments that we actually host tournaments here, Carolina Cup in the fall. It's getting ready to come in about 2 weekends. Last year we had 226 teams from 5 different states. Our St. Patrick's Day Cup in the spring is always very large. I think we're up to around 286 in this past spring. And then one thing I do want to mention about those tournaments, what makes it so beneficial to be a club of our size is that the way the travel tournament systems work, it's all about reciprocity, right? And what I mean by that is clubs will want to come and come to Columbia and bring their teams and stay in the hotels and eat meals in the restaurants and spend money in the stores over 3-day weekends as long as we are able to reciprocate, okay? And the reality is that we are so big. I have 49 select travel teams. So when the Greensboro United Club calls and says, Ron, we'd like to send down 10 teams to your tournament, can you send us 10? Absolutely. And we do that time and time again. But smaller clubs, they don't have the ability to do that. And I'll get to it here in a minute and tell you why that's just so important for communities. But a couple of the other programming items I'd like to touch on with you are first, the International Cultural Exchange Program. I mentioned Alfred earlier, and many of you remember Alfred. That was Alfred's first trip to America with the group in 2004, I believe it was 2004, he gave that speech. Today, Alfred and I have exchanged over 450 boys and girls from Rheinland-Pfalz, Germany, and Columbia, South Carolina. One of the first pictures you saw up there of all the little girls in the team, there was a coach on the left, a young lady. She actually was here last year. Her name's Lena Steindorf. Lena was studying here at the Brain Institute at the University of South Carolina. She was an exchange student in that very first group. She loved Columbia. She did the University of Mannheim in neuroscience. She decided to get an internship here, and she came and lived with that same host family that hosted her way back in 2003. We continue to see friendships develop through this program, both at the adult level and in the children's level, and it's just fantastic. And I will tell you that I had a wonderful time this past summer taking Jennifer's son. He was part of this year's delegation. It's a program I believe in, I always will believe in, and it's a program that's out there for all the right reasons. Here are the girls. Here's the girls group from 2 years ago when we were in the tournament in Strasbourg, France, with the German host club. You'll see Alfred over there on the left. He's still looking good. And then here's always throw this picture in because this tells a good story and really gives a depiction of what it is we do. It's not just about soccer. These are the boys groups, both teams doing a canoe trip down the River Lahn, stuck in a lock waiting for the water to rise. It's just so much more activity than just playing soccer. And then a new first, and we're real excited about this. This past January, we were asked to participate in the Westerwälder Ceramic Cup. It's called the Indoor German Masters. We were the first American team to play in this tournament in 35 years history. To put it in perspective and how competitive that tournament is, in the World Cup down in Brazil summer before last, there were 14 players representing their individual national teams who, when they were 17, played in the Westerwälder Ceramic Cup. It's just absolutely phenomenal. It's all the professional teams, the major professional teams in Germany. We had FC Basel from Switzerland, Gutenberg from Sweden, Brøndby from Denmark, and Team Japan and us. And I'm proud to say that our boys in that very first tournament came in 12th out of 16 and received an invitation back, and we're heading back in January. And 3 professional teams from Germany did not get invited back, one of whom we beat, so that was a lot of fun. Really well done. It's indoor. It's really a fast game. That's a real leather size 5 ball, off the walls, no grass. It's an incredibly fast game. A lot of it very exciting. And then we have our U23 PDL team. The PDL team is a summertime league. I'm going to speed through this so we can move on to some other areas. But the PDL team is a U23 summer league. It's basically a pre-professional league for the best college players in America. We have the only franchise in the state of South Carolina for this. And put that in perspective, 83% of the players in last year's MLS draft, the professional Major League Soccer draft, came out of, at one point, had played in the PDL. So it's a true development league. It's similar to Farm League baseball back in the day, summertime baseball. As you can see, the players obviously get older and more serious looking at that level. And then I do want to touch on the stature of our players in the soccer community. As I said, we just have a phenomenal number of teams. We're playing in all the different leagues that there are to play. Our kids are getting recognized locally, nationally. We have 2 former women's players who played on the women's national 20 team, and 3 former players who are now playing professionally on the men's side. And just a whole cross-section of kids. This is a wonderful young lady. She was the Gatorade Player of the Year last year, Miss Casey Parker. Casey started with us when she was 9. And I know we have Gamecock fans in here, but she just decommitted to the University of South Carolina to take a full ride with Anson Dorrance at the University of North Carolina, which we all know is the top, one of the top 3 women's programs year in, year out. Phenomenal young lady and a great student. This is another District 2. This is a District 2 product. Grayson Barber. Grayson is the first player in the history of our club to sign professionally, and he just moved. His family placed him in residency with the Major League Soccer club Sporting Kansas City. And he now attends school in Kansas City and trains every day with the professional club. And we were so proud of him. In his first game out there last month, he scored 2 goals in the very first game for him. And then Braden Troyer is a product of the Northeast. He was a captain at the University of South Carolina, and he played with us in the Bantams, and he now plays professionally with the Richmond Kickers of Richmond, Virginia. Academically speaking, 230, and just since that merger, 230 of our players have gone on to play Division 1, 2, 3, or NAIA soccer. We have scores of Calhoun Scholars, Capstone Scholars, Hollingsworth and Palmetto Scholars. We have a Fulbright Scholar to Germany. We have a Rhodes Scholar to England. So from technical schools to the Ivy Leagues, our kids are doing fantastic things. And we have 5 appointments to the Military Academy. George, I know you'd like to see those U.S. Air Force there. But why is that so important? Why is the club so important beyond just helping kids succeed? It's the economic development. We had Dr. Harry Miley do a study for us, and our economic impact is $7.6 million annually here, and that's just with the size of the club right now and the facilities we have. The reality is, based on these numbers, we have outgrown the facilities and our ability to hold quality tournaments here, which all these teams expect. Jennifer will tell you, she's gone around, everyone in this room will tell you who's has been involved with soccer. You go around the Southeast and every other community has a beautiful soccer complex. And they would all come back. They all say to me, Ron, what's wrong with us? Why can't we have one? Well, we're going to have one, okay? And we're not going to ask for any tax dollars for this. We're going to do it in the private sector, and we're off and going right now. We purchased 24 acres of land near the corner of, near the intersection of Monticello Road and I-20. It's behind the warehousing park on the right. Beautiful piece of property. We now own it. We're ready to go. And it will be 2 championship-sized soccer fields, 3 additional large fields. Celebration Bermuda grass will be installed, sports lighting. We'll have outdoor futsal court, fitness and weight training building, concession, restroom, locker buildings, and maintenance equipment and building. And this is what the project will look like from a character representation of it. I'll give you a couple different angles here. There you go. The cost of the build out, phase 1, which we call getting balls rolling and under lights, and we already own the land free and clear in fee simple. We worked on that the last several years. It's going to cost us approximately $1.5 million to get the balls rolling under lights. The structures, we're being very, very lean with it. We're going to use Hoover metal buildings. We're going to be very functional, nothing terribly flashy. The cost of phase 1 and 2 is $2 million, and we're looking to raise a little over $750,000 more than that. Our funding plan is we're construction financing from BB&T. We have that secured. We have capital improvement fee for members. That's in place. We have a project training naming rights initiative, which is underway. We have our capital campaign, which is underway, and we will be involved with the traditional grant raising, fundraising. Our goal is to raise $3 million in the private sector. We're already off and running on that. Project training naming rights initiative. We have long-term options for those who are looking to leave a legacy here in Columbia. For our larger gifts, they will come with naming rights to the complex itself, the championship field, and the main building. The other long-term naming right opportunity is the gift associated with Championship Stadium number 2. Short-term, we have 5 fields. We have the weight room and we have the futsal court, and they all have naming associated with them based on the amount of the gifts, but those are over 5-year terms in a payment structure over 5 years. So color-coded, you see this, blue are the long-term naming rights, yellow's the long-term naming rights, the short terms are on the other structures. And I am, we'll get to it in a minute, but naming right or giving levels, $1 million is what we are out working on securing for the naming rights to the entire complex, Championship Stadium number 1, and the building, Championship Stadium number 2, $400,000 level, $150,000 for the other 3 fields, and $40,000 for each of the other 2 structures, the futsal court and the weight room building. Quick overview, the naming right, what the project would look like, the entrance gates, the main building, the Championship Stadium with the naming rights associated with that. Stadium number 2, the other long term, is the one on the right. I cannot announce yet the individual, but we're really proud to say that we have secured that donation, and that will be announced shortly. So we're already on our way at that naming right and that giving level. But again, quick photographs of looks of what the others would look like. I know better than everyone that I got to be done at 1:55 here, and I will do that. I'm going to leave with you. Jennifer has got in the back, we've got some brochures if anyone is interested in supporting the organization. 501c3, everything's tax deductible. We very much appreciate it. We're doing great things for the community, great things for the kids. We really appreciate our existing major corporate sponsors in Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, of BB&T. They've been phenomenal partners with us over the years. They really love what we're doing. Our giving plan in terms of the capital campaign is tied into our motto themselves in terms of the various giving levels. When you break it down into the numbers we're looking for, it's very doable. We're very excited about it. But again, we're doing this in the private sector. We're not going out and asking for any governmental money whatsoever. We're going to do it. We're going to get done. And finally, the community and the kids and the families are going to have something that they can be proud of here. I'm going to stop there. I really appreciate everybody's attention here today. You know, it's something I'm very, very passionate about. People say, Ron, how could you walk away from practicing law? I practiced for 27 years. I had an absolute phenomenal career. I loved what I did, but I didn't really like living my life in those little 6-minute billing increments. Looked out the window one day, true story, testimonial. I looked over Columbia and I said, oh, I could be doing so much more out there helping families. And that's when I made the decision with Kitty and Hudson up and out that I was going to go ahead and take early retirement. I'm very fortunate to be able to do it, having the time of my life, and it's so good to be back here. I do want to plug one thing about Rotary. For you newer members in this club, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely get involved. Get involved with the district programs. It will make your life all the richer, not in monetary terms, but in terms of what really matters. My life and what I've done with this club, with my family, is all based on the principles of Rotary and what I learned in this club. To tell you things that go full circle, and some of you will real quick and you'll get a kick out of it. So, actually the young man I have sitting right here, Hendrik, stand up real quick. This is Hendrik Northrop Poulsen. Hendrik just finished his Fulbright year at Stony Brook University. He got his master's on Fulbright in theoretical physics. He's from Munich, Germany, and many of you guys know Kitty. This is Kitty's boyfriend. Kitty said, oh, Hendrik, you're so lucky you get to go to Rotary today, and I got to be in class. She's getting her PhD at USC in neuroscience, and that's where she is today. So the only reason those two ever came together was because I was involved with the international exchange program when I was a Rotarian, and Kitty wanted to go be an international exchange student. We did that. She went to Germany on the Fulbright after going to Germany for a year as a high school student, and they met. You know, we're so proud of that. I'm going to go one more for my buddy Hudson. You all know, many of you know Hudson. So imagine my pleasure when I moved Hudson into the apartment that he picked out in Evanston, Illinois, he's getting his PhD in organic chemistry. And I walked into the apartment and I had to use the restroom and a bathroom, and I went in and I looked out the window, and literally on the very next block is the Rotary International headquarters. So I can't get away from Rotary. Thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure to be here. And should anyone have interest in learning more about the capital campaign or the naming rights, I've got some material in the back. But thank you so much. We do have some time. I'll take one or two questions if Bill would like. Yes, sir.
I have a question, and specifically, it's really older boys soccer. I know a lot of clubs have this issue when you have the full year program that you're getting. A lot of clubs have issues with, you know, colleges recruiting that kids play their high school season. Do you guys have an issue with that?
Yeah, I can tell you, it's really not so much the colleges, coaches that have that issue, it's the high school coaches. Because, you know, in all respect to the high schools, the club soccer is played at a much higher level, and when you're playing at a higher level, there's much less risk of injury. Seriously, I mean, we've all seen that, because the high school teams get somewhat watered down in the amount of talent. But the one issue is, I've seen it, and it usually happens at the 13-14 age group, there's too much. There's too much, because the older children, the older players, those 14, 15, 16, 17, the high school kids, they all play our club seasons in the fall, high school seasons in the spring. So there's not much overlap at all. But at the middle school ages, in the junior varsity teams, that's when those younger kids are 13, 14, they play their club season, main season in the spring, and that's too much. I've seen it, I agree with that. So that's why you may see some picking one over the other. It's just too much on their legs. Bill, thank you very much.